should be rolling on the river the entire time.
Rolling, rolling, rolling on the river.
That's Sarah.
That's Elizabeth.
And this is Mother Goose Lied.
There we go.
It's so wee.
It's alright. It's perfect. It's what we needed today. A double. We got a double today.
It's 2 for 1.
Mm-hmm. Okay, friends. Welcome to Peter Pumpkin Eater.
Had a wife and couldn't keep her.
Okay, let's highlight. We're trying to be better. We want to be a good podcast for you guys.
I took my meds today so I would focus.
There you go. I'm drinking caffeine so I can focus. Regardless, let's read a poem, rhyme, Mother Goose thing. What do we call that?
Oh, nursery rhyme?
Nursery rhyme. We're here. We know what we're doing.
Yeah, we're professionals.
We are. No, we're not.
Peter Pumpkin Eater had a wife and couldn't keep her. He put her in a pumpkin shell, and there he kept her very well. Mm-hmm. Okay, on first glance, can I just say I would love to be just a little wife in a pumpkin.
It's cute. You want to show off the picture again?
Yeah, it's
for our viewing audience?
Oh, I don't want to get up.
Do you want me to do it?
No, it's fine.
Oh my gosh.
You're the old one.
I'm what? Am I the old woman?
You are the old woman who lived in a shoe.
I lived in shoe.
In shoe. No, that's no.
Our viewing audience gets to look at the pretty picture drawn by,
Not me. I can't focus. Okay. That's the best you get.
That's the best you get. But who's the artist or illustrator? It's on the back of the book.
The illustrated... Ooh.
I believe in you.
Blanche Fisher Wright.
I love it. Blanche Fisher Wright.
Thank you for your artistic abilities. They might be dead, but maybe not. Who knows?
Your artwork lives on. Okay, so you ready for some history?
I am.
Okay, and there's more verses.
I know.
And throwback stuff.
Ooh!
Yeah.
I love a good throwback.
So, there's also some unfounded theories that I will not mention so that I don't perpetrate horrible internet-created, this is what this means, and there's no basis in history.
Camera pans to the Mozart and Bella Porch thing.
For real. That was a fun conversation.
It was.
I don't think you included that.
I don't think we were even recording.
Okay.
I think we were on a Tuesday.
We were on a Tuesday. Okay, so some history. It is an English language nursery rhyme. Mm-hmm. The first surviving version of the rhyme was published in Infant Institutes, with the longer name that is connected to that storyline, but Infant Institutes is the main part of that title, in London around 1797.
Okay.
So that's how old it is.
Old.
Or how old it has been recorded.
That's around the time you were born.
Thanks. I look wonderful for my age, you guys. Immortality suits me. It also appears in Mother Goose's Quarto?
Cinco.
Cool. How do you pronounce that?
What in the hell makes you think I know?
Mother Goose's Quarto. Oh God. Okay, I'm gonna try this. We're just gonna pause. You're gonna cut that out.
Oh, no.
Oh God, no, I'm not.
You're gonna cut that out.
That was funny.
It also appears in Mother Goose's Quarto, or Melodies Complete, printed in Boston, Massachusetts around 1825. Quarto is spelled Q-U-A-R-T-O. Quattro, unknown.
I don't think Quattro's right.
I don't think so either because of the placement of the R, but how do you pronounce that? And it's written in Boston, of all places, which I would not. Yeah. 1825. All right. So we have the book that we read had only one stanza. Mm-hmm. There is a second stanza connected to this. Mm-hmm. Peter, Pumpkin Eater, had another and didn't love her. Peter learned to read and spell, and then he loved her very well.
Ooh, he's a gold digger. But for knowledge?
So we have this story that he has a wife, he can't keep her, which has implications of can he not keep her because he can't afford to take care of his wife? Or there's the more scandalous version, which is where he couldn't keep his wife because she was performing wanton and adulterous affairs.
She's having a good time.
Mm-hmm. And so then he puts her away or puts her in a pumpkin shell.
I want to be put in a pumpkin shell.
So there's that. And then he gets another wife, had another, and didn't love her. But then Peter learned to read and spell, and then he loved her very well. So then there's the implication that, like, he's ignorant.
Same.
And then his ignorance is kind of what is related to his inability to love her. Like, maybe he couldn't appreciate her. Maybe she was smart or something like that. And then once he did get some learning in him, then he is able to, like, oh, I actually do love you. Like, I've learned things, and I'm a better human being. Yeah. But we still have that first stanza. Couldn't keep her, put her in a pumpkin shell, and there he kept her very well. And the darker implication is murder. That he murdered his first wife because of her wanton ways.
Isn't there another version of the second stanza?
So there's an even older version than Peter Pumpkin Eater, supposedly. Okay. If you want me to read into that, I can, and there is for sure murder in that one.
Yes, I want to hear it.
Okay. So I will say this one has some... We can't exactly know when this particular version of Peter Pumpkin Eater... I tried to do some research to find out where it came from or when exactly we have evidence of it. Mm-hmm. It is not well documented.
Right.
Now, both Peter Pumpkin Eater and this older version called Eeper Weeper are both noted in the Road Folk Song Index, which is an index that was started to be compiled by an academic person in Britain, I think in the 60s or 50s of the 1900s.
There was a better way you could have said that.
Probably. But ultimately, back in 1950s, 1960s, he started compiling this list of folk songs and rhymes. And he includes Eeper Weeper. But I try to do some research to figure out exactly when Eeper Weeper was first noted. Because we know when Peter Pumpkin Eater was noted, which was the 1700s. But this Eeper Weeper version is believed to be older than Peter Pumpkin Eater. But I couldn't find much to it, and there's an even older version of Eeper Weeper.
Yeah, I have no idea how to speak that one because I read it the other day and I was like,
So I will read Eeper Weeper first, and then the even older, supposedly older version of Eeper Weeper. So Eeper Weeper goes, Eeper Weeper, chimney sweeper, had a wife and couldn't keep her, had another, didn't love her, up the chimney did he shove her. So there is no way that is not murder with Eeper Weeper.
Yeah.
And then there's an even older version, or supposedly older version of both of them. And I'm going to do my most best / it is the most awful Scottish accent I can.
Oh, no.
Because it is believed to be a Scottish version of this. That is the oldest version of Peter Pumpkin Eater, Eeper Weeper, and then this one. So excuse my poor Scottish accent. Peter, my neeper, had a wife and he could not keep her. He pat her in the well and let all the mice eat her.
That was a night.
It was horrible, and I'm so sorry, but it's got that's literally how it's written with
the
weird contractions and letters left off. So Peter, my neeper, had a wife and he could not keep her. He pat her in the wall and let all the mice eat her. So.
Dang. He buried her alive.
Yes.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Up the chimney, he'd shove her.
So there's reason why people think, or there's this theory that Peter Pumpkin Eater is about murder, is because both of these older versions, Eeper Weeper and then the Scottish version of Eeper Weeper, both involve murder.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So if you want some history, the most outrageous connection that might be based on real life facts was an incident back in the 13th century with English King John, who bricked up or imprisoned a rebellious noble's wife into the wall and starved her to death.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of also the plot of Cask of Amontillado?
Yes.
I love that story. I love Edgar Allan Poe.
Yes.
I'm an Edgar Allan Ho. That was good. That was on the spot. It was
the
good.
The best thing in the world. I never regret that moment ever.
I'm Last ghost.
I used to be a huge Edgar Allan Poe fan back when I was more of like a wannabe goth back in my young age. Maud de Browse. Mm-hmm. She is Lady Bramber. She was an English noble and spouse of William de Browse, or de Brau, I don't know. It's probably French. Post-Norman invasion, I believe. He was a court favorite of the King John of England. She would later incur the wrath and enmity of the king, who caused her to be starved to death in the dungeon of Corfe Castle, along with her eldest son.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. She was born Maud de Saint Valery in France in about 1155. Sometime around 1166, Maud married William, which I didn't like hearing that because that means she was 11.
At the time.
I know it's
doesn't
at the
make
time.
it okay, but like at the time.
Yeah.
At the time.
And I've heard so many side research question, and maybe any of our viewers can know. I've always been fascinated because you hear about these, back in the day, women married really young. Mm-hmm. And you hear that, but that doesn't always mean that they were engaging in adult activities that young. Like, they might have been married and sent to the castle at that age, but like until, I would love to know, like, was it you're married and you're expected to perform all woman wife marriage relation duties, or were you married off young and they kind of were like, you're here until a certain more older age.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, so that's something that I've always meant to research and just forgot time and again.
Yeah.
Going back to the history. So King John of England ascended the throne in 1199 AD, and Browse became a court favorite. He was also awarded the lordship of Limerick, Ireland.
Okay.
Maud is often referred to in history as the Lady of Hay. In 1198, Maud defended Payne Castle in Elphail against a massive Welsh attack led by, and this is an Irish name, and I am so sorry, I don't know how to pronounce Irish words. Gwynwynyn. Gwynwynyn, Prince of Powys. And I'm so sorry. Gwynwynyn.
That's okay.
Yes.
Asriel when he sees Gwyneth.
Someone's on a Court of Thorns and Roses kick.
I've been on the Court of Thorns and Roses kick since I read it.
Yes. When did you read the first book?
I read it maybe a week before I got dumped, so about a year ago. And that's how I gauge time.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I was sitting there listening to it over spring break, and I got dumped that weekend.
Okay. Fun.
I'm fine.
That's fine. So going back, Maud defended Payne Castle in Elphail against a massive Welsh attack led by Gwynwynyn, Prince of Powys. She successfully held off Gwynwynyn's forces. It's a fun name, sorry. She successfully held off his forces for 3 weeks until the English reinforcements arrived. Maud and William are reputed to have had 16 children.
Jesus Christ!
Yes, and I don't know if I'm going to get to it. My research notes are not very well organized, but Maud is her, because she had so many children and because of how their kids married out, a lot of English nobles and royalty throughout Europe are actually related to Maud because of just how prolific her children were, and then they married well.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm not going to go into that because there's a whole lot more to that, but please research more on Maud de Browse and her kids.
You have had 2 children.
I have had 2 children.
Can you imagine having 16?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Not out of my own body, for sure. And also, she was a noblewoman, so she probably had some help. Maud was described as beautiful and nimble-witted. She, like all medieval women, were expected to govern her husband's estates, manage his business affairs, arbitrate in tenants' disputes, and defend the family property during the times he was absent. These tasks Maud performed with great skill and efficiency.
Okay, feminism.
Exactly. And that's one thing where, just because we don't focus on the women in history doesn't mean that women have not been a part of history. So this is kind of one of those fun things about learning about history. So she's also known to have participated in some of the military aspects. It's kind of mentioned. There's like a Second Barons' War that she was a part of. She helped to defend a castle for. There was Prince Edward, someone, I don't exactly know how he was related to King John, had to run away, and she basically helped him escape. So she's known to have participated in military affairs and very much was a woman of strategy and awareness, and she was pretty cool.
So if she's like that awesome and that helpful, how did she get
put
in the pumpkin?
How did she get put in the pumpkin? Up the chimney, bricked in a wall. So what happened was, in 1208, her husband William quarreled with his friend and patron, King John. The reason is not fully known. Thank you. The reason is not fully known, but it is alleged that Maud made indiscreet comments regarding the murder of King John's nephew, Duke Arthur I of Brittany. There was also a large sum of money, 5,000 marks, de Braos owed the king. Whatever the reason, John demanded Maud's son, William, be sent to him as a hostage for her husband's loyalty. Maud refused and stated loudly within earshot of the king's officers that she would not deliver her children to a king who had murdered his own nephew.
Oh, girl.
Yeah. So,
honey.
Yeah.
Bad move.
So the king quickly led troops to the Welsh border and seized all of the castles that belonged to William de Braos. Or de Bro. Maud and her eldest son William fled to Ireland, where they found refuge at Trim Castle with the de Lacys, the family of her daughter Margaret. In 1210, so 2 years later, King John sent an expedition to Ireland. Maud and her son escaped, but were apprehended in Galloway by Doncada, Earl of Carrick. Carrick?
There's no O in that.
Sorry.
Or W.
After being briefly held at Carrickfergus Castle. Carrickfergus Castle? I'm sorry. They were dispatched to England. Maud and William were first imprisoned at Windsor Castle, but were shortly thereafter transferred to Corfe Castle in Dorset, where they were placed inside the dungeon.
Isn't the current family that rules England the Windsors?
Yes. Maybe? Yes?
Yeah.
Yes. The contemporaneous history of the Dukes of Normandy and Kings of England claims Maud and William both starved to death.
Oh my god.
It's said that John had her with her son imprisoned at Corfe Castle and ordered that a sheaf of oats and 1 piece of raw bacon be given to them. He did not allow them to have any more meat. After 11 days, the mother was found dead between her son's legs. Her son, who was also dead, was found sitting straight, bent against the wall. So desperate was the mother, so pause for warning.
Can you speak up just like a little bit?
Yeah, so pause for warning. There is cannibalism.
I'm trying not to be intrigued with this.
Yes.
That's really awful.
So,
but also kind of interesting.
So, desperate was the mother that she had eaten the flesh off her own son's cheeks. So, I'll read that again. So desperate was the mother that she had eaten the flesh of her own son's cheeks.
Jeez.
The manner in which they met their deaths so outraged the English nobility that the Magna Carta, which King John was forced to sign in 1215, contains clause 39, and I quote, "No man shall be taken, imprisoned, outlawed, banished, or in any way destroyed, nor will we proceed against or prosecute him except by the lawful judgment of his peers or by the law of the land."
They said, ooh, checks and balances right now.
That's right. And the Magna Carta is a big deal. So it is believed and understood that Maud and her actions and the whole actions King John took against the de Braos family are related directly to the creation of the Magna Carta, which as Americans know, like we kind of believe that Constitution and checks and balances are, put into our constitutional system because of the Magna Carta back then.
Wow.
So that's the story of Maud de Brauw. Her husband died later that year in exile in France. He'd gone disguised as a beggar to escape King John's wrath. Maud's daughter, Margaret de Lacy, founded a religious house, the Hospital of St. John, in Ackenbury, Herefordshire, in her memory.
Okay, but why'd she name it after the king that murdered her?
Well, because they're trying to find good favor with the king, I would imagine. Yeah. So, anyway, the legacy of Maud is recorded to have been as having presented to a vacant benefice in the Stoke Bliss Parish Church of Herefordshire. These are not words. England, no words. Ad Valsen, I don't even know what that means.
Those are not words.
None of that is words. Benefice in the Stoke Bliss Parish Church of Hertfordshire, and Advitson, having originally belonged to the Mortimers, but was bequeathed to the Limbrook Priory by George. None of that is words. It's so old. Oh my gosh, that's such old verbiage there.
Verbiage?
I don't even know what that means. And I'm not a dumb person, okay? I've read lots of books from the old world's stuff, but my gosh. Anyway, Maud has a legacy related to some vacant benefice in Stoke Bliss Parish, whatever that means. Maud died of an unknown date shortly before 23rd of March in 1301, and she was buried in Wigmore Abbey. Her husband, Roger, which we talked about her being married to William de Braose, died on the 30th of October in 1282. So some of that dates, there's some...
Who's Roger?
Who's Roger? I should know that because I'm the one presenting the history, but I don't know.
But didn't William die after Maud?
Yes.
Then why does it say that he died that many... So it says that her husband Roger died in 1218 and that Maud died in 1301.
I know, yeah. But this part, I don't know.
Something doesn't check out.
Something doesn't check out, but this is from Wikipedia, in case you're interested in following that rabbit trail.
Because we trust Wikipedia.
Yes. Okay, so here's the part where I was mentioning earlier. All the monarchs of England from 1413, as well as Mary Queen of Scots, were directly descended from Maud, as is the current British royal family. Queen consorts Anne Boleyn, Jane Seymour, Catherine Howard, and Catherine Parr were also notable descendants of Maud de Braose.
Those are all wives of King Henry VIII.
Yes.
All of them were...
Through the latter's daughter Isabella, Countess of Arundel. Arundel, that's a cool name. Queen consorts Jane Seymour and Catherine Parr also descended from Maud's son, Edmund Mortimer, 2nd Baron Mortimer of Wigmore. Maud de Braose was described by author Linda E. Mitchell as the perfect example of a woman who obviated the restrictions her sex placed upon her and succeeded in placing herself squarely at the center of the political milieu and the areas under her domestic control. Mitchell goes on to eulogize her as one of the great architects of the late medieval March, which were the words used by Welsh historian R.R. Davis to sum up Maud's husband. She is found in a lot of Welsh folklore, myths, and legends. One legend which says that Maud built the castle of Hay on Wye single-handedly in one night, carrying the stones in her apron. She was also said to have been extremely tall and often donned armor while leading troops into battle. The legend about her building Hay Castle probably derives from the time she added the gateway arch to a tower which was built in the 1180s.
She's a baddie.
She's a baddie.
But, okay, here's my question. Peter Pumpkin Eater had a wife and couldn't keep her. Put her in a pumpkin shell, and there he kept her very well.
Mm-hmm.
One, William did not put Maud in pumpkin shell, metaphorical pumpkin shell. The king did.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, I understand that had a wife and couldn't keep her because the king was like,
Right. So that's why when you talk about like the history of a lot of these nursery rhymes, as we've found out, we're only a few episodes in, you and I, recording and looking things up. There's so much unfound, like, oh, here's a nursery rhyme, and it vaguely mentions something similar to this thing that happened in history, and so some human being goes in and finds a connection. Is like, well, there's this story of Maud who gets, put away in prison and starves to death. Well, there's this old, nursery rhyme about breaking a wife into a wall. We're going to make a connection. So even the stories that I'm telling, like, as a history perspective, like, they are so loosely tied, if at all, to these nursery rhymes.
Yeah. Do you think maybe, possibly, that this could have been, like, the king's last-ditch effort to maybe save face, and maybe he blamed the husband? And so specific nobles maybe said, let's write this down, saying that the husband did it, and kind of perpetuate that rumor. But then the Magna Carta came along and nobles were like, actually, homie, do you think that could have been something that was tried but failed?
So one thing to note about the Eeper Weeper rhyme, which is older than the Peter Peter Pumpkin Eater, because remember the Peter Peter Pumpkin Eater, like, I believe pumpkins are New World. So those would be like after the Columbian Exchange, which is 1400s. So this whole story from Maud happens like hundreds of years prior to the creation of a pumpkin. So the understanding of a pumpkin. But it's believed that Eeper Weeper was just like a skipping song. Like Miss Mary Mac Mac, all dressed in black, is a song and American children play and learn for clapping and jump roping and stuff.
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, there's a ton of like, nursery rhymes and like little skip rhymes and melodies that we sing that have very dark implications, but they're just random.
There's just a part of me that refuses to believe that something that dark is just come up with. I just, like, Ring Around the Rosie is something dark that, like, we could have argued that, but it was directly related to
the plague.
And the roses and
the
posies.
So that's what we believe, but I've not done the full research to,
back that up.
Yeah, to back that. It could just be one of those, like, it's so easy to take these rhymes and be like, I found something connected to it.
Yeah.
And it's just, vague enough that and that's what I'm saying with this Maud story. Like, it's fun to learn about Maud, but is it actually connected to Peter Peter Pumpkin Eater, Eeper Weeper? And the reality is probably not. So do we learn some fun history? Yes. Is it fully connected to the rhyme? Probably not.
That should be our new... Probably not.
Yeah, probably not.
Okay.
I hope you enjoyed this history moment.
Yeah, 'cause that's interesting. I don't love it.
Yeah. The ending is just so sad.
Yeah.
But, I mean, she's such this cool, strong woman. Like, it'd be like one of those women you want to, like, be like, she's my role model. And then, ooh. Like, comment, subscribe to Mother Goose Lied.
That was Sarah.
That's Elizabeth.
You have been goosed.
There you go.
Bye.
Bye.